Hi, my name's Sofie Sagmeister. I'm the CEO of the Austrian company MAGU, and you're listening to Professionally Cannabis.
Where do they go, the smoke rings I blow each night? Oh, what do they do, those circles of blue and white?
Hello listeners, and welcome back after our summer break. Although actually neither Johnny nor myself are back in the UK as it happens. Johnny, tell the people where you are.
I'm in Montenegro at the moment. One of the things that was really heartwarming for me was that within 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes of being in the country, I was in a taxi and I was offered some water, some Jaffa cakes, and some cannabis.
It looks like the culture keeps on marching forward.
Yep. The Jaffa cakes were delicious. How about yourself, Oscar? Where are you at?
Well, I'm sat in my robe in a palatial hotel room in Malta. It's actually the Palais de Brun for anyone thinking of coming to Malta. It's in the capital in Valletta. And I've got a mezzanine in my room. I'm not going to lie, Johnny. I could live here forever.
Business is going well then.
Yes. Business seems to be going well.
Okay, well, our summer adventures aside, moving on to our interview. Oscar, who have we got this week?
Well, we've got Sofie Sagmeister. As the CEO of MAGU out in Austria, she's able to give us a real ground's-eye perspective on the strange and somewhat Byzantine rules and regulations for CBD and cannabis in Austria.
Exactly right. It was a real eye-opener for me, and I hope for you as well, listeners.
Oh, what do they do, those circles of blue and white?
It's my great pleasure to welcome Sofie Sagmeister, CEO of MAGU CBD. As one of the first CBD shops in Austria, Sofie quickly became one of the pioneers in normalizing cannabis products in Austria, a country with tricky and not always clear regulations. But in Europe, you're certainly not the only ones battling with confusing legislation. Great to have you with us today, Sofie.
Hi, Jonathan. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you also for the kind and very honest introduction.
Not a problem at all. Now, Sofie, a question that we asked to all of our guests on Professionally Cannabis is, what led you to the plant?
How I came to the plant is actually a very, very personal question for me. I suffered from very heavy and strong menstrual problems. I couldn't even get out of bed for the first few days of my period. And I tried everything the traditional pharma world has to offer. I tried ibuprofen and Parcamate and everything. And after some time, I decided that I need to find something else. I need to find something that doesn't destroy my intestines, that is not bad and harming my liver. So I started Googling. And I found CBD. I tried CBD, and I love the effect it has on me. It honestly, it really changed my life. It changed my life, and it changed the life of a lot of friends of mine who also suffer from very painful periods.
Now, from making that discovery of CBD to actually becoming a business owner, I'd love to hear a little bit more about that, because it's always amazing to see young entrepreneurs changing perceptions and pushing boundaries. So tell us a little bit more about the seed to sale, so to speak, of your idea to launch your own cannabis business in Austria.
Yeah, when I first went to buy my own CBD oil, I had to go into those kinds of grow shops where you can also buy bongs and stuff like that, and I felt very uncomfortable. I always looked around on the street before I entered the shop, because I was afraid someone from work, for example, could see me. And then by chance, I met my two business partners, Yuri and Sebastian, and we talked about CBD, and this was like our common ground. and then we decided the three of us is the perfect team to start to try to sell CBD in Austria. And so we did. We didn't want to rent our own shop at first because we didn't know how the media would react, how police would react, how the politics would react, and if the people even if there even was a demand for something without THC. So we opened the store in the morning, and a few hours later we were sold out. So the demand was definitely there.
Amazing. And you touched upon the team that you built together, so yourself and your two business partners. Now, tell me a little bit about them. What does each person in your team bring to the table?
Yuri Scotland, one of my partners, he is our CBD expert. He studied molecular biology and neuroscience, and every single question we have, he can answer. And most of the times in a way that a normal person like me can understand him. So he's the brain behind our CBD knowledge. Sebastian Riesland is the third part of our trio, and he studied bioresource management, and he got to know the hemp plant there. The hemp plant, as most of you might know, is like wellness for soil. If you have a field that's completely dry and you think it's dead, just put some hemp seeds on it, water them, wait for one season, and the field will be alive again, because the roots of the hemp plant are so strong, they go so deep into the soil that they make way for water, oxygen, and little animals that can revive your ground, your soil. I will quickly introduce myself too. Before we founded MAGU, I taught at 2 Austrian universities, and amongst other things, I dove deep into the topics on women in male-dominated professions, with a focus on women in and technical professions.
Now, on that topic, that's actually something that I'm particularly passionate about, and something we've seen in the cannabis space is that, albeit making a really good start in terms of numbers and percentages of women in senior leadership positions across the cannabis industry, over the last 2 years, those figures have fallen from 30+% to 27%, and a few months ago there were figures saying that now the level of women in senior leadership positions in cannabis companies is at 17%. What are your thoughts to that? Why do you think it is? And what do you think the industry can do to remedy this?
Yes, I just recently read an article that now more and more, how should I say, straight white men from the Western world get into the cannabis business because they see money and they see power, and that's how our economy at the moment unfortunately works. The situation in Austria is a very positive one. The 3 biggest CBD companies were founded and are led by very amazing women. To be honest, it's not very difficult to create an equal work environment, which was my goal from the start for MAGU. I drew up something like a manifest. For example, women can work from home during their period. At the office and our retail stores, we offer organic feminine care products in the bathroom. Last week, we had a gender career workshop for everyone in the office. We also dove deep into the topic of gender in general and how it's simple, how we work better together as a team. We also offer part-time positions, not only for women, but also for men. Those are just a few small steps you can do to create a more equal working environment. To be honest, every company that doesn't take steps forward towards more equality, I don't think that's going to be a company that will survive very long, because times are changing. People are aware that their time and their energy is a value, and they want to bring this value into a company or into something that has a huge value for them. That's what people tell us when they want to work for us. I don't want to spend my time helping some manager buy their 6th Ferrari.
Now, talking of company survival, the cannabis space in Europe is, of course, burgeoning and developing week by week. People typically, globally, seem to know quite a lot and very familiar with Germany's cannabis program, but more often than not, you don't hear so much about Austria. What's the current landscape out there?
You don't hear so much about how we navigate cannabis in Austria. You hear a lot of other interesting things about Austrian politics. I will start with our experience and how we navigated it. Up until December of last year, we sold our oils and our water-soluble formulation as dietary supplements. Mm-hmm. We had 3 different marketability certificates from different countries and legal opinions from Germany and Austria, which allowed us to inform on simple things like dosage and application. On one Sunday in December, the Ministry of Health published a press release with their interpretation of the existing rules. On the next day, the apothecary chamber informed every single pharmacy in Austria that they would have to destroy or send back all the CBD products they have immediately. 2 days later, the food authority came into our shop and informed us that we were not allowed to sell CBD as food anymore. And dietary supplements are also considered as food. And I looked at the guy from the food authority and asked him, do you have any tips how I should proceed? Because I have a stock full of products. The shop is full of products. What should I do? And he looked at me and said, and I quote, just change the label and sell everything as an aromatic product. First, we thought that's a joke. Yes, first we thought that's a joke. But after meetings with other big players in the Austrian market and discussing with our lawyers how we should proceed, we did as the guy from the food authority suggested. We just changed the labels. And at the beginning, Germany and Italy still wanted dietary supplements, so we sent dietary supplements to German pharmacies and to Italy, and we sold aromatic products in our shop. We consider the current strategy of Austria a step back. A step back away from safe and quality controlled products, back to more confusion than before and no answers instead of progressive regulations. I can get into more detail if you want to, because there's one very interesting fact, I think. There's one department in the European Commission called PAFF, which is part of the DG Sante group. And amongst other things, they're working on novel food topics, in specific on the classification of hemp extracts and cannabinoids. And what's interesting is that this working group just recently got 2 supervisors to ensure a fact-driven and not a money-driven decision. What this meant for us, from the beginning we knew we would be of too high risk to start into an unregulated market by only concentrating on one aspect, on one, let's call it, business branch. So we built our business on a balanced scorecard with points of sales, a production lab, product development, and cooperations with government, pharmaceutical companies, and other companies. We built our business like a table, and the more legs the table has, the more solid it is. And another tip I would give someone who wanted to start in the CBD business, get a good lawyer.
I think that's key to anybody operating in Europe. But I would say the rules in Austria in particular do seem perhaps more confused than most places. So, when the Ministry of Health restricted the sale of the non-psychoactive agents of the cannabis plant in December, As I understand it, any products that were cannabis-based could only be sold in pharmacies, but nonetheless, CBD products are still available in stores. Now, is that because you've been able to change the labeling as they recommended, or is it down to something else?
The situation in Austrian pharmacies is the following. They're not allowed to sell CBD products from companies, but only CBD products they made themselves. So most pharmacies sell CBD oil made of CBD crystals and most of the times, unfortunately, sesame oil. So entourage effect, full spectrum, none of that you can find in Austrian pharmacies. And in CBD shops, you will find CBD oil and the other CBD products only for aromatic purposes, as long as the rules in Austria are still like this.
And as I understand it, in your shop, you also sell cannabis flower. Are you able to get around that also, around the aromatic benefits?
Austria has a special solution for everything. In Austria, there's a monopoly on selling tobacco. There is a special law in Austria that says that tobacco can only be sold as a monopoly in certain tobacco shops. And in this law, there also states that every single product that could potentially be smoked has to be sold with warning labels, and you're not allowed to do advertising for them. So with this new interpretation of the law in December, the Austrian Ministry of Health also communicated that they want every CBD flower to be sold according to this law. So now we can sell CBD flowers for consumption, for smoking or vaping, but CBD oils and water-soluble CBD as aromatic products. It's very confusing, not only for you or the people listening, I bet, but also for our customers.
Well, on that actually, sort of regarding consumer education, what are you and what aren't you allowed to say about your CBD products in Austria then? Presumably, if you've had to strike off a lot of things off the packaging, you're not really able to make any health claims or anything of the sort.
No, for the CBD oil and our water-soluble formulation, the CBDs, we're not allowed to inform on health claims. We're not allowed to inform on dosage or effects or anything. So if people come into our shop and they ask, they tell us a story, for example, I cannot sleep, and do you know if CBD could help me with that? We're not allowed to answer. We have to explain the current legislative situation in Austria. We have to hope that they understand, and we encourage them to talk to their friends, to talk to their family, or to simply Google the effects and the dosage of CBD for their specific needs.
And as far as I understand it as well, you also have a growth facility. In Austria, the maximum value of THC is 0.3% in the plant for hemp products. And in Germany, it's 0.2%. In this, are you catering more to the Austrian market within your grow facility, or are you lowering the THC content to increase your potential market share, being able to sell into Germany as well?
You're correct. The THC content is not allowed to be higher than 0.3% in Austria. But we also grow strains below 0.2, and everything we grow below 0.2, we also offer our business partners in Germany, Croatia, also in Italy, in Switzerland, and so on.
And quality control and standardization are really hot topics at the moment, and so they should be. What do you guys do to ensure the stability of your products?
We developed a very strict quality control in our production lab. We do THC and CBD tests every single week. As I mentioned before, we only use soil from biological companies. We use small animals instead of chemicals, pesticides, fungicides, and so on. And we ensure that the transport way is not longer than 2 hours for every single product. So the carbon footprint is as minimal as possible.
And in terms of the wider market in Austria, do other players that operate in the CBD and THC space see the quality control and standardization as an important topic in the same way that you guys at MAGU do?
Unfortunately, not all companies on the Austrian market see quality standards as a very important topic. There is an NGO in Austria which is called AG, and they developed a seal, the AC drop. It's a seal that stands for basically that what's said on the label is true. So the CBD and THC content, the content of pesticides, herbicides, and so on. And they always take a random sample and they test it. And then they put every single store that applies with their standards on their website. That's the only thing we have in Austria. An NGO making sure that only good CBD products come to consumers.
I am learning a hell of an amount about Austria at the moment. And something else I'd like to touch on is around sort of legislation and politics. Now, I know we've spoken about specific and somewhat confusing legislation in Austria, but I really wanted to touch upon the turmoil in March. Now, for our listeners that might not be so familiar with this, back in March, Heinz Christian Strache, I hope I pronounced that right, he was the leader of Austria's far-right Freedom Party, and he resigned as the Austrian Vice-Chancellor following a leaked video in which he offered to trade lucrative government contracts for campaign donations from sort of a supposed Russian millionaire. Now, how did this political uncertainty impact progress in the cannabis and cannabinoid space? And is government change in Austria good for the industry? What was the old Vice-Chancellor's position on all of this?
We think this change in the Austrian government is the best that could have happened to the CBD business, because the former Austrian government was driving into the direction of forbidding everything. We once talked to a member of the party, and he said he knows it's a traditional medical product, so his family uses it. But this decision is a political one. It's an emotional one because their voters do not understand the difference between THC and CBD. And they have to show that they're against drugs. It says a lot about a party if they think their voters are that stupid. But, well, now the Austrian government consists of experts and scientists which want to, or which are very motivated to change a lot of things that have gone wrong or that haven't been addressed in the last few years. And they also want to address the topic of CBD. We have been in contact and talking to a lot of parties in the last years. We've informed them with our evidence-based proposal. And the feedback was mostly very positive. But no party wanted to touch this topic. So there was no progress possible up until the Austrian government changed. And the word lobbying sounds very negative. It's more like informing, but really it is. It is informing, and we are informing the parties and have a very good feeling with the current Austrian Ministry of Health that we will find a solution where every single player will benefit.
And if I was to ask you to make a prediction about what the landscape in Austria is going to look like 12 months from here, what would you say? I know that's a damn hard question to answer. That's a very
difficult question. Before the sudden change in the government, I wouldn't have known if they would prohibit selling cannabis and also hemp, because that's what they planned as well, in Austria within the next 12 months. Now, with experts and scientists sitting in the government, my hopes are high that there will be an evidence-based solution, a very progressive evidence-based solution.
And in terms of the future of MAGU CBD, where do you see that taking to?
In my opinion, right now, the most important things are high-quality products, because of the lack of high-quality products as of right now in the European market, and just doing your business in a sustainable way. Starting with the soil you use for your plants, the packaging of your products, the way you treat your stuff and your customers. There are brands that follow the market, and then there are brands that develop the market. Don't be afraid. Believe in the potential of the market and be the brand that develops the market. And as I mentioned before, the best strategy today is, in our opinion, to have the whole value chain in-house. This way, you can react faster to changes and be more flexible with the prices, which we learned firsthand. It's very important. The market will always change. We will have to ride the waves as they come. And the more flexible you are and the more pillars or mainstays you're already built, the easier it will be to change the direction of your surfboard in the direction the wave is going.
Amazing. Great pearls of wisdom there. Sophie, thanks so much. You've been a great guest on Professionally Cannabis.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed talking with you.
Where do they go, the smoke rings I blow each night? Oh, what do they do, those circles of blue and white?
So listeners, it's a ciao from me here in Malta.
And from me here in Montenegro.
We'll see you again next week.
Then why do they fade, that phantom parade of love?